Call to order this regular select board meeting for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Are there adjustments to the agenda?
Not by me.
We will go with the warned agenda then, because I have nothing to add as well. Is there anyone for opening public comment? Seeing none and hearing no one, we will close the opening public comment period, and we will go into an executive session. I move that we enter executive session under 1 VSA section 313 paragraph A3 for the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes carry this motion 3-0. It is 6:01. We are in executive session.
And we'll come back up after we're done, or the board is done.
This conference will now be recorded.
I move that we exit executive session and return to open session at 7:02 p.m. Is there a second? Is there a discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0.
Your mic's off, Bob. There we go. So 7 o'clock, Jennifer is here for the 6-month FY23 budget review.
This is going to be super fast, guys, because things look really, really good for our 6-month review. So this is the 6-month ending December 31st, even though we're in February. Takes that long sometimes to get things done. I sent you the on your computers, you have the one that I marked up today. Oh, the one I marked up today? Okay, good. Generally speaking, if you're at 6 months, the target percent would be 50%, right?
Yeah.
Except for with highway stuff, because a lot of highway projects are front loaded, so they are completed in the fall. So majority of our big highway projects have already been completed. So you'll notice when we get to those categories, it's not going to be 50%. It might be 100% on some items. Basically we look at it and we say, if we're not on target, then why? Are we over or under? What's the reason? And make sure that as department heads, we all understand why we're over or under. And also, are there expenses in here that we didn't budget, and where are we going to be taking that from? So I'm going to just go through general expenses. And I do have a presentation, but I'm not even going to bother because there's not that much.
No one here.
There's no one here. But I will put it online so that on the web, so that since people who aren't here can see it. But basically the total general expenses of all the general, for the general fund are at 50.79% year to date. And it's actually lower than that because included in that is the trailer that we have for elections. That's an asset. So that'll be moved. So now I'm going to just go briefly by department. Starting with select board, which is page 1 and 2. And I highlighted the total for select board. I don't think there was much in select board. Oh, HRA is over, and that was over when we met last time. I explained why that is. It's going to continue to trend that way. With the higher deductible, which we did compensate for next fiscal year. All of the insurance is being moved. So anything that's green, you'll see that there's not a budget number next to it because it's budgeted on a different line item. Sometimes you'll see the budget and the expenses, and that's going to be straightened out. I just haven't done that yet. On page 1, professional fees, that's the note taker and the trainings that we did, the team trainings. Page 2.
Oh, wait a minute. That shouldn't be at 100% by now, because we have a whole half a year left.
Right, but we didn't budget for it, so
Oh, okay.
it's not it wasn't budgeted for, so that's
Okay.
just an expense.
Gotcha.
But you'll see that in your, if you go flip to page 2, you'll see under your contingency, the $10,000. That's kind of built into that.
Mhm.
So you're only at about 1,800 of that. Then also the elections total is at 87%. There's still one more town meeting, so that still has to happen. And you'll see that the reason that that's so high is because under election supplies, you've got the trailer in there at 5,000 and change, which was in there when we met last. On page 3, you'll see admin, which is Brad's department, at 49.7. So that one was fine. Town clerk and treasurer on page 4, 50%. Page 5, finance, 51.85%. The assessing is at 40.34. And the reason that that's lower, probably you all remember, because we had, when we did the budget for fiscal year 23 was before we promoted Amanda and canceled the Vermont appraisers contract. So that's why that shifted. So even though Amanda was promoted and received an increase in her pay, there was still about I think it was either $6,000 or $9,000 difference there. Yeah. Then page 7, you'll see post office is at 160%, which would sound troubling, but that's really because of one thing. Obviously, percents are higher if it's just a small number, and we only budget spending $1,500, but we spent $2,300 because we're paying taxes, property taxes at the post office, which we hadn't budgeted. It is in the budget for next year.
And that's passed on to in the rent, correct?
Yes, it's covered on the income side, yes.
Okay.
Sherry built that in when she did the 5-year lease. And then page 8, there's that total percentage of 54% for general government. So we're right on the money. Highway, and then there's the other general government, I think. Let me see what else I said I was going to mention in this. Town hall expenses are at 46%. Move to page 10, which is recreation. You'll see I highlighted that and it looks extremely high. That's because of the ARPA, which was the $40,000 ARPA to use to improve the town pond, which we also talked at our last budget, at our last update. And then planning and zoning, which is Nick's department, is at 44.47. So that's also looking good. The reason that it's lower than the 50% is primarily because the mapping is it Arrowwood or Arrowhead? Arrowwood? The natural resource mapping people hadn't invoiced us yet.
Yes, Arrowwood Environmental.
Arrowwood
Yeah.
Environmental, yeah. So they haven't, that's not in there, even though we budgeted 12,000, we were only at 1,800. So that pretty much says the general fund, which is 50.79%. Way to go, team. Highway is at 57.47. So we've got two things happening with the highway. Our salaries and benefits are lower than budgeted because we budgeted the road commissioner position and we didn't hire that person yet. So we've got a little buffer there because we didn't hire that person. And then the reason that the other expenses are over 50% is because, again, the projects are front loaded. So materials are purchased and the majority of those road projects have already been completed. A couple worth highlighting. I am going to move to page 15, because that's where the things start to look out of whack. The energy expenses, which we all know were high. We did do that contract with the heating. So we signed the contract with the heating based on the quantity of propane that we used last year, but the rate was higher. So we went over budget on that. And then fuel for the diesel is at 42,000 at the 6-month mark, when the total budget for the year was only 45,000. So that's going to probably be close to double, is my guess, of what the budget is. So it'll probably be closer to 90,000 for the year on that. And then Nate explained to me that although it might have been pointed out to him by someone, the sand number went over budget. And he said that it was because partway through getting the sand, there were 2 price increases. One was right in September, and he just kept buying it, so we went over.
I think the key in future years is, as I did, I know we were hauling a lot of sand. I called up Percy's and I said, where do we stand now for money? And they add up the slips to tell you where they stand. And I would recommend, whether the price goes up or not, you may not get as much sand as you would hope for, but at least you just cap out at your budget.
Well, it just seems like there's a disconnect between money that's allocated versus what someone feels is the amount that they need to have for actual product.
Correct.
There needs to be more communication as far as, trying to hold the line with the financial component.
Yeah.
And then have a larger conversation with the select board as far as whether or not we want to go over that line item or not.
Agree. I did, in talking to Nate about that number, he shared with me that he felt that, I forget which one, that there was going to be quite a bit more salt to be purchased. That was really I think we're up to like 9,000 or 10,000, but I don't think we will I don't think we'll hit the 50 there. So there will be a little bit of leeway there. And then the stone, I believe there's a project that was in there that we're not doing. So the stone one, I think, is going to come under also, because it had to do with a grant that we didn't get or something. So I think there's going to be a little flexibility in those two, in that category. Traffic control materials went over by like $2,300. And I asked Nate about that, and he said that they replaced a lot of signs, and they also had to replace a lot of poles that they didn't consider. And then also the price of the steel and the signs, it had increased due to the reason everything else has gone up this year. So my grocery bill went up 30%. So my personal grocery bill. So the total highway's at 57%. And then under capital, which is the last category, you'll see that we're at 76%. We actually will be over tomorrow possibly, or Monday, when we actually take delivery of the truck, which I understand is ready to be picked up, the new truck. The insurance is on, and from what I understand, it's there ready to roll. So once we purchase that, then we will go over budget in capital, and that's because the paving went over, as discussed, because of the asphalt prices that had increased. And really, that's it. That's all I have to say, because at we're basically at 50%, and there's not a lot worth pointing out at this stage of the game. I think the most important thing when it comes to these materials is that we do make sure that we're that we don't go over in these things, because what happened last year is we got to this point and then spring came and we had the mud season debacle and we went way over in our material costs. So I think we have to always keep that in mind.
So where's a line item, Jennifer, for vehicle and equipment repair?
That is in line right now. Page 14, down at the bottom under other purchase services, there's dump truck maintenance. Is that 50%? 48.7%. It's down at the bottom under other purchase services, 1, 2, 3, fourth item down.
Oh, okay, I see it. Good.
So
Not,
heavy equipment is the excavator and the grader repairs. That's at 4,400 out of 15, so it's at 28 to 30%.
and those two are pretty much up to snuff right now.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, you should not say that out loud. Yeah, no, everything looks really good. So
Good. Okay, thanks.
that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
I will put that and my presentation that I just went over really fast on the web so that if other people would like to see it, they can.
So next on the agenda was the Harvest Crossing Planning Grant update. Dan Mance is here. Dave Cliff is online. Al Samard.
Dan, I want one receipt for you.
Thank you so much.
You want me to get the world in, or you want?
Go ahead and give it a start, and then I'll be happy to.
All right.
Build it.
So as far as the, the last time we met, I had the grant agreement and then the resolution that you gave me the authorization to approve the grant. So the next steps, and we're still talking about the planning grant now, but the next steps are the subgrant agreement. And I included that in your packet tonight. So the subgrant agreement, and I had a brief discussion with Dave Rue from our attorney's office. He handles the real estate side of things. So it's the church's responsibility to prepare the subgrant agreement and to certify in the actual grant agreement itself. There's some certain conditions, and there's 4 or 5 conditions that the church needs to certify to. Then once we get the agreement and certification that the requirements have been met, or the conditions have been met, then our attorney will look at that document and then issue what's called just an opinion on the, not a title opinion, but a legal opinion. So then that gets uploaded into the portal. Then that section, then we're pretty much done with the planning grant aspect.
We're not done with the planning grant, but we're done with the business part that enables the church to start showing paid invoices to the town that we can then
Correct.
recover money on.
That's what I meant.
The
We're
work's
finally at the stage where the church can request reimbursement for funds. Right. So, but it can't happen until
the
From
subgrant.
the grant that we obtained.
the planning grant that we obtained. So we have a signed grant agreement.
Yep.
As soon as the conditions are met, that's in the grant agreement, then they're able to draw down funds. But on top of that, the church has received some earmark money from Senator Sanders' office, the tune of $200,000. So in order to kind of get that in motion, we're going to need to open up a new application in Gears. And that's basically an application for environmental review release. So it's, and maybe you can take it from here.
Sure.
So we're not actually, we're opening up a new environmental release, almost like you were going to do an implementation grant, except we're not at the stage where we're asking for, or the church is asking for an implementation grant for construction, but it's for.
Right. So in this whole process, which let me say is difficult for me to get my head around understanding exactly the ebb and flow of all of this, but for us to be authorized to purchase the property, the church could go ahead and purchase the property tomorrow, presuming we had the money and we wanted to do so. If we were to do that prior to obtaining this environmental review release, it precludes us from applying for future implementation grant funding. And it would also preclude us from receiving this $200,000 of earmarked money from HUD that Senator Sanders arranged. So we need to get this environmental review release taken care of. And the way that that gets done is the town will need to open this new section in the Gears reporting system, which is the start of an application for an implementation grant. In the end, we don't have to apply for an implementation grant. Before we apply for an implementation grant, we will be back to see you folks because there will need to be another resolution similar to what you did the other night passed to enable us to apply for that. But this is where we enter the documents that lead to this environmental review release. That's sort of how my understanding of how this works right now is. And we are interested in applying for an implementation grant in the future. We are certainly interested in receiving this $200,000 of HUD money. And so it would be a great help to us to get this environmental review release done as soon as possible. The substantive steps that have to be done for that is we have to have an environmental assessment. We have completed that. We have to have the wetlands assessment. We have completed that. We have to have an archaeological review. We have completed that, but we do not yet have the approval of that from the Department of Historic Preservation. We're working on getting that right now. It seemed like there was
also need a sketch of.
Oh yeah, we need a preliminary sketch, a site plan, which was explained to me by the folks at Community Development Program the other day. They want to make sure that in our preliminary planning documents, we're not going to put the houses where the wetlands are. That's basically what they're most interested in assuring. So we need to get those documents together, entered into Gears, and then that's what leads to this environmental review release. So we're very close on that.
So can you say there was an environmental assessment, then there was a second thing, then the archaeological?
Environmental assessment, a wetlands assessment, right? And a wetlands delineation. So we now have the perimeter of the wetlands on the property. We know where that is.
And the environmental review release is really, it gives assurance to HUD and Senator Sanders' office that this project's actually going to happen. You know, there's nothing standing in the way, overwhelmingly standing in the way to prevent this from happening. So, but they'll still have to go through the entire process with the town
and the
with
DRB,
the state.
right?
So we're still at the planning stage, and
yeah, we'll have many other steps. We'll have to get wastewater permitting. We'll have to work with the Agency of Transportation on a curb cut road access out of the property. Many other steps still to go.
So yeah, I guess so just to summarize, the next steps the church will prepare the sub-grant agreement, return that to us. Our attorney will issue a legal opinion on that, which gets uploaded into Gears. Then there's there needs to be some sort of assurances, like a mortgage of some sort. So basically, we trust the church. We know that they're going to be forthright in spending the money properly. But you could see if you were tied up with a different type of entity and they defaulted on their debt or their obligations, that it would come back onto the town.
Right.
So this basically this legal opinion and this.
Right. To back all this up, again, the town was the eligible applicant and recipient of this planning grant. And in the future, the town would be the eligible applicant and conceivably recipient of implementation funds. And then there's this sub-grant agreement to the church. So this sub-grant agreement, a lot of it, as I read it, and I'm certainly not an attorney and don't pretend to play one, but it appears to me it's assurances to protect the town, to make sure that the church has a registered number in the government SAM system, to make sure that we are not over our head in debt, to make sure, that we're not 1 foot on the banana peel getting ready to create an awkward situation for the town. And our Dave Clift is on. He's forwarded this sub-grant agreement, the draft of it, to our attorney, who will be reviewing it. And I think hopefully we'll have a document prepared for us to bring back for town legal review early next week.
That's the hope.
So the action necessary by the select board tonight would be for them to
Approve the review of the sub-grant agreement by our attorney when we receive it.
Okay. So I move that we do that.
Yeah, just authorize me to forward the sub-grant agreement to the.
Yeah,
to-
I move that we authorize the town administrator, Brad Holden, to move the sub agreement once it's received from the United Church of Underhill to the town attorney for review and consideration.
Second that.
And if it came back from the town attorney with a legal opinion saying it's okay, will the select board need to look at that again before you put it into Gears, or will that?
Yeah.
Okay. You'd want to review the.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're ready for discussion. Any question?
Any other discussion?
Your mic's off, Dan.
So
Any other discussion?
The lawyer will review this sub-grant help me with what the review will be.
So I can
And
just
let me
tell you.
finish my
Yep.
thought
Yep,
before
go
I-
ahead. I'm just going to get
Or
out
I
this
just ask a
section.
simple question. The underlying question is, what risks are there to the town of this whole project? One of the things that was said is if the church was not financially capable and it became insolvent, then the town would be on the hook for X, Y, and Z. I would like to know more about that. So as we get into this relationship, we really understand.
So first of all, we're
Any
talking
risks?
about a $50,000 planning grant that's secured already. Those funds are secured, right? So it's my understanding that the church will basically certify that they're going to pay the bills.
And the lawyer will look at it from that perspective?
Yes, exactly,
That the
exactly.
review is not just you check the boxes.
No.
They're going to identify.
They're certifying to
the
us that they're going to meet these requirements.
Right.
Okay.
And then we're going to in turn review that. And then we're in an agreement.
And Al Smart may be able to speak this more clearly than I am, but the churches to date, I think we've spent about $25,000 in, getting environmental assessments and wetlands assessments and archaeological assessments and engineering costs and legal fees. Those are costs that the grant will reimburse. So notice the town hasn't put out $1 on this yet, and the town isn't going to need to put out $1 on this. The church is required to pay the bills up front, and then you get reimbursed after the fact. So if we did something that, if we did some sort of activity, I can't even give you a good example, but if we did an activity that wasn't eligible for reimbursement under the planning grant, the church is on the hook for that, not the town.
Okay.
See, because we have to pay the bill up front.
So just like any grant, whenever we have a requisition, we're going to have an invoice, and then we're going to have proof of what was done.
Is there a timing issue with grants that, like some regulatory regimes say you cannot spend a nickel until you get approval? Is that not the case for this?
No, it's
type of
not the
grant?
case here.
Not the case in this
You
one.
can't ask for any.
You're correct about
You've
that,
already
but it's
incurred
not the case.
$25,000, and that's before the grant's awarded. We're not going to be throwing the yellow flags.
No.
Wow.
No, right, yeah, no.
All these
No,
are,
that's okay.
all these expenses are eligible under the planning grant, so.
Right.
and
Is
the planning.
our attorney's oversight on this, is that an eligible expense of the planning grant? The time that our attorney takes to go over it?
Probably.
Great question, but I suspect it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suspect so.
We'll find that out.
Yeah.
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 I don't think we're talking about a really in-depth.
No. it
Review
wouldn't be
here.
very
No,
much.
but right, for some attorney to read a document and write a letter is going to be into 3 figures anyway. So,
And I will point out the end award date, on this grant is December of this year, so
Right.
23. So we need to.
Right.
All requisitions, it'll be closed out at that point.
right, we'll be done hopefully before that.
Yeah.
So, and all of this is to say, again, we really appreciate the town's cooperation and support in doing this. It's, our goal from the outset was to make the business of this as simple as possible for the town. I will say it's more complicated than I originally had envisioned.
You're learning a lot.
We're learning a lot. Thankfully, again, you've got pretty good staff here who actually knows how to do a lot of this stuff. And so together we're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out.
Well,
yeah.
speaking for myself, I think it'll be an asset to the town to have the project move forward and take shape.
Thank you. We certainly hope that's the case.
Mhm.
So I guess that's really it. No action taken besides just the attorney.
Vote on the motion.
So we, I don't
Yeah.
think we took a vote on that, to move for the attorney to look that over and get back to us.
So,
All
yeah,
in favor?
it would be to review the subgrant agreement and to provide a legal opinion.
Opinion.
To the select board for review and consideration.
Yeah.
What's your motion?
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries 3-0.
All right. So it is 7:34 and Kurt is here and Cricket McClusker is here online. Can you hear us, Cricket? Fine.
Mm-hmm.
You see your unmute button there? Okay. Okay.
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So tomorrow is the deadline for posting weight limits on town highways and bridges. We have to do it every year. So Bridge 7 has come to light, and do you know where everybody knows where Bridge 7 is? It's down by the Dean Road intersection of the valley. And I've included in your packet some email correspondence between V-Trans, Cricket, Kurt, and myself. There's one thing I will add. I did get a response from Jim Coda just late this afternoon, and basically thanking Spencer Howard, who's the engineer that sent the latest inspection report. Thanking Spencer for forwarding that information and that advice, but he finished by saying, please remember, this is Underhill's bridge and Underhill's decision. So we give you information, but it's ultimately your decision. And that seems to be what we've been hearing all along here is, they provide inspection information, recommendations, but in the end, it's really the town's choice. So, and I don't know if Cricket, you want to chime in and reiterate anything I just said, or?
No, that was right on the money, Brad. It's yeah, it's a pretty standard V-Trans response because of course they have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bridges around the state, so it's kind of their way of saying, remember, this one's on you. It's a town highway structure. Not extremely helpful, but yeah, it is their line.
So when you say it's our choice for posting? It's our choice?
Correct. So let me back up a little bit. So
So
all class 2, 3 highways are posted at 24,000 pounds, and bridges, 24,000 pounds, gross vehicle weight. But we do require, if someone's going to run overweight, to get an overweight permit. I guess what Cricket's suggesting, and we're all kind of thinking, is that we should post, or you should consider posting Bridge 7 at 24,000 pounds as it is now, but do not allow any overweight permits to travel. So that would basically be when I report, and I found this out today, so I would have to just, so right now, Pleasant Valley is grouped up, the 3 bridges, 6, 7, and 8 are all kind of grouped up into one category. And they're at 24,000 pounds. But if I just simply parsed out Bridge 7 and then put 24,000 pounds, and then at the very bottom, there's a section that says, are special permits permitted, or can you get one? Basically we would say, you would say no to that question, or to that section of the, so what happens is as I update all of these bridges and roads, it goes into a portal or a database that most all the truck drivers use. They go online to this online portal, VTrans, and they can look and see, okay, is this road posted right now, or is there any restrictions? And then overweight permits are due by the end of March. So it's the expiration date for overweight permits. So everybody will be coming in, getting their overweight permits. We could simply put on that permit, deny Bridge 7, make them very aware. So anyone, and then Nate suggested that we could put on the bridge, and I don't know, this was my wording that I thought, we could put 24,000 pounds max GVW, no overweight permits. So then if someone's coming at that bridge, they see that, they may travel across it, they may not, but at least the liabilities.
Are we able to really enforce that?
I think the DMV is the only one that could really enforce it.
No, and it's not really something that gets enforced. It's on the honor system with the driver. But what it does is, if the signage is there and it's obvious, it alerts the driver that they're making the decision to go over it on their own, as opposed to there being absolutely no indication that it's, aging, nearing replacement. All of the things that it is aren't obvious to someone passing over it unless there's some signage that says, hey, by the way, this one is, you really need to respect the overweight permit requirements on this one, get one, or, if it's not in this case, we're saying you can't get one for this bridge. So it's more of a alert. It's not that there's actually any on-site reinforcement. Same way every single class 2 and 3 town highway in Vermont has a 24,000 pound max gross vehicle weight limit on it. And we all know there's lots of heavier trucks that travel on our local roads. So it's more of an honor system type thing, but it does take some liability off the town by making the driver aware that this bridge is particularly important to respect their load rating on.
Any concerns with our weight of municipal vehicles?
Yeah, so
And equipment we're hauling?
we're obviously going to have to travel across it to plow. But Nate has said, well, if we're going to haul sand, we can just go around 15.
And those are the exact kind of judgment calls that get made.
And I asked Nate this question. I said, well, how do we get the word out? And I guess what I've learned today is, by uploading that information in the portal, and if the conscientious truck drivers are looking at that information, and then also if they're coming in to get the overweight permit, so there's going to be multiple places, then we can also post it around town at the town hall here, and then actual signage out on the site. The word will get out.
It's more of a showing that the town's doing their due diligence.
We also should talk with Cambridge and make sure that they are aware so that trucks coming down the bridge don't get to the bridge and be stuck with, I got to turn around, because it's not a really particularly great place to do that. So if we catch them up at the
at Bridge
Pleasant,
6 or, Yep.
These are the same truck drivers that go through Smuggler's Notch that figure that out once they get almost there, and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think, I could tell Cricket's concerned about it, and I trust her judgment. And just if you've been underneath this thing, it's sure sketchy looking. It's built in 1927, by the way.
Right. And you used to be able to see that it was 1927, but
We'll have
that's
to
all
worry
spalled
about
off
it if
now.
you're the second truck.
It's going,
First truck usually like, okay.
They did give us some recommendations. I think the one thing that's different from the date of the inspection is we have paved it since then. So I think the drainage on the deck has been improved. There are scuppers. I guess the biggest thing they noticed, and I think the reason for this is there were several potholes in the deck where water was creeping down in between the abutment, right? So
Yeah,
now
I
all
think-
that's been sealed up.
Right. So
When
a
is
lot
this-
of those latest maintenance for
When is this on the books again to get replaced?
so we have it in for this go around to get an application for a grant from the state. If that is approved in the May timeframe, then later on this year, when you're developing the budget for fiscal year 25, that's when we'd be looking to have that put into place.
So between.
So that would happen.
In 2 years?
So fiscal year 25 is from July of 24 to July or end of June of 25. So you're looking at a year and a half, a little more than that.
We did bounce around the idea. It's like we have the structures grant secured on Harvey, or I keep calling it Harvey Road, Mountain Road, the 200,000 there. And, I kind of posed the question. It's like, well, could we just transfer the grant to Bridge 7 since we now have a design? It's almost 100% complete, right, Cricket? Is it close?
it is, yeah. And both designs, the Mountain Road design's complete too.
Yeah.
So a quick backstory on this is back in 2014, the town hired Cricket's firm to come in and look at Mountain Road, Bridge 7, and Corbett. So we've completed the work on Corbett. It's been replaced, and we have a new bridge in there to resolve that one, which had some serious degradation. Nate had a 1-inch thick steel plate over it for probably 5 years. Mountain Road was the next one in line. We had the design grant. Cricket's completed that work. We applied for the construction grant last year, obtained it in our first request, which was a shocking surprise, but we got it. So bird in the hand, and we want to keep that. What we're learning is that if we go to apply for the construction grant, which we are this spring, that because we've got that one, maybe our odds aren't as good at getting one for Bridge 7. So when we put the grant forward, what we're going to talk to them about is, look, we really need to do Bridge 7. So if we request it this year and you deny us because we got one on Mountain Road Bridge, then can we do some swapping of that sort? So at our next meeting, a week from Monday, Brad, myself, Cricket, and the Highway Committee are going to have a discussion about how do we put that into play and try and make sure that we're covered on Bridge 7 in case we only get one.
But in the meantime, by posting this weight limit,
that should help protect.
Things. However, we'll see what the.
So we're basing this on people doing the right thing, just like the same people that are supposed to travel 25 miles an hour in the school zone and supposed to travel 45 miles on the Pleasant Valley Road, where we all know that any of us that have lived here for a considerable amount of time know it's the Autobahn. So
Yep.
I don't know how much common sense it makes to, other than for the good people that like to follow the rules. There's going to be people out there that are just going to do whatever they want when they want anyway. Are there any measures that could be taken to leave the weight limit the same as the rest of the bridges along the Valley Road? Is there plate steel that can be put down? Is there anything that can be done to, try to, keep this, afloat until we can get the structures grant to be able to, do the job appropriately?
It is being left at the same weight limit.
The only difference
24,000 pounds is all class
Right.
2 and 3 ton boys.
Yeah, we're not asking that. It's just the restriction would be no overweight permits.
So if your question is there something we can do to fortify, beef this thing up so that it can handle the daily traffic that it's been getting year over year? Cricket, myself, the state, a rep from the RPC have met over this bridge multiple times at the bridge, over phone calls, and we all pretty much equally agree that if we try to tap into this thing to do any kind of repair, that as you start to unravel this thing, it may just come undone. And so to get in there to try and do some low cost kind of maintenance on a bridge that's going to be removed and replaced, we all feel that's not the appropriate path for us to go, but to limit the
Well, I think it would be
access.
wise for us to follow the recommendation of our engineer and our highway infrastructure committee person to not put any overweight permits out there and try to limit our exposure by putting up a sign, I guess.
And it's probably, we're going to get some flack, but it's a through road, there's other options. If you're coming from the valley, from the Cambridge side, you just go 15. I know Dennis Baloin, the logger's right there, but I think he travels mostly this way anyway.
Well, the Frenches are going to, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be impacted. Anybody that
Correct.
hauls, milk for a farm, type of thing, they're going to be impacted. The maple syrup and sap producers are going to be impacted. There's going to be a lot of people. It's not just going to be Dennis Baloin.
It's the ones that are up close to where that bridge is that have to go all the way around. Someone like West Hollow, as his logs brought in, is probably getting most of it coming in the other end, and so is not going to be hit as heavily as someone like Baloin. And
It's also going to
others
take
up that way.
some heat off the road itself,
As long as people heed the warning.
How
Well-
often are overweight permits applied for?
What's that?
Is that a frequent thing?
Every year. So certainly there's probably trucks that pass through here that don't have overweight permits, so 24,000 is the weight. So I don't know, is that a dump truck empty is more than 24,000. A tandem dump truck.
Yeah, and that's why there's so much talk at the legislative level of whether or not this 24,000 pound rule even makes a lot of sense moving forward. But
Probably did, 50 years ago. Made a lot of
yeah,
sense, but
yeah, but like Brad and I talked about today over the phone, it's not like any self-respecting engineer or infrastructure highway person is going to want to increase that limit in a blanket way, knowing that a lot of our rural infrastructure is in rough shape. So it remains and will for years to come, I'm sure.
We're not alone with 1927 flood bridges. I'm sure across the state, there's got to be quite a few out there. And that's kind of what we get told by Jim Coda at the District 5 office where we apply for these grants is there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of other towns that are looking to take care of bridges that are ailing. And so there's no
There are
shoe in just because you're.
A lot of bridges that were built between 1928 and 1938 to 45 that are in desperate need of replacement, and they will all get replaced in time, but many of them are in the same condition as this one. So the state is tough. There just isn't the money to replace, and manpower and design power to replace them all immediately, but they kind of all need it immediately.
So are you looking for a motion to restrict the number of overweight permits on the Pleasant Valley Road effective immediately and lower the weight for that Bridge 7?
I guess the only real action we would be doing is just restricting any overweight permit for Bridge 7. The rest of the road would remain the same.
All right, I'll make that motion. That we restrict for overweight. It's limited to the 24,000 pounds.
Second.
Is there further discussion?
Your mic's off.
Further discussion?
Be possible to send a notice to the local residents, put this on Front Porch Forum so that the local residents know that action is going to be taken, so to, plan accordingly, those that are in the hauling heavy load business.
Yes,
I'm just trying to be proactive, let them know. It may be worth the dozen or so postcards or whatever, to these guys to let them know that, hey, by the way.
Well, I think Front Porch Forum would be a good idea, posting it online on our website. And then, as I say, as everybody starts renewing their overweight permits, it's going to be right on their permit. It's going to be written right on there.
Okay.
So
I think for the notice on Front Porch Forum is to clearly articulate that it's a safety concern. And that's why we're doing it, not just arbitrarily.
You didn't like the Jake break? You didn't like the Jake break when they're coming down the hill?
I mean, I certainly, tell it the way it is. Tell it the way it is, and then also say that, that the design is complete and that we're applying for implementation grant for replacement. So people know it's
Probably worth our while to contact Cambridge and maybe ask them to post it on their Front Porch Forum as well. That way the truckers that are out there that might be coming this way are aware as well.
Trying to be helpful.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0.
Thanks, Cricket. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks.
I'm sorry, my mic was off the whole time here. I'll repeat that whole thing. So the Diffendorfer overshadowing notice was resubmitted with the correct form. And basically the proposal is for an in-ground septic, and that creates a reverse well shield, and the area highlighted affects property that the town owns. So this is just notification that, hey, we're going to put this septic in, and if we put this septic in, you will not be able to drill a well within that highlighted crosshatched area. So
where in relationship to this is the town?
The Historical Society. Yeah, so it's basically just the shrubbery kind of corner. I don't even think it includes the parking lot. So probably not a place you would drill a well anyway. And as I say, we really don't have a lot of choice because first come, first serve. Like if we were in the state of New Hampshire, this would require an easement. They would have to obtain an easement from the town in order to do this. But in the state of Vermont, first come, first serve. However, we're somehow put on notice. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when we get put on notice, but there's nothing we can do about it. But
well, I guess I just want to make sure that, because it is a future consideration for the town to want to have a well for that property.
correct.
Not to say that we're going to drill one tomorrow.
Right. If we had, say we had a design in place and we were proposing a well there, certainly then we'd have, something to come back at, but seeing how we have no plan whatsoever. And again, I think it's such a small enough area that it would be in an area where you wouldn't wind up drilling a well anyway.
How big of a landmass is this?
I just don't happen to have, I didn't bring my copy. Could you just swing your screen over so I could see it a little bit? So it's, I think the scale says if you pan up, it's 1 inch equals 70 feet.
Yep.
So just estimating, if you look, it's, of course, the river's there and the top of the bank of the river.
And that's on this side of the river.
It's on the other side of the river.
Oh, on the other side.
So the area, if you look, you can see the top of the riverbank is right here. So really the area affected, the river doesn't count. You're not going to drill a well in the middle of the river. So the area is basically right there. And I would say that's probably a 60 by 40 foot area right there. There's the width of the road. This is
So the
whole
town
road
property
here.
is this entire thing or just this portion?
No, it goes way over here. So it goes to the Historical Society and then continues on to the town pond and all through there. So you're not even seeing the building. The building, the Historical Society building is way over here. So basically, it's a pretty minimal piece. But I have talked to Mr. Diffendorfer, and he's not even really sure that he's going to do this. So he's just applying for the wastewater permit.
Would it be in the town's interest to engage him in offering an alternative site aside from that?
We can take a little harder look into it and see exactly the area that it's affecting and see if it's a feasible place to drill a well. I think there's certain setbacks from the edge of the Browns River to even drill a well. It's not like you can punch one in it's probably isolations from that since it's in a riparian buffer.
I guess
I could do a little more investigating.
I'm just a little hesitant about because it's along that roadside.
I understand, but again, I don't think this is crazy. We get this notice, but then the state says, well, here you go, it's notice, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's first come, first serve. But I will, let me do a little digging and a little more homework on it and see if I can pin it right down to how much land we're talking here.
But if we have no choice on the matter, there's no action for us to.
No, there's no action. I can just look at it more and maybe, maybe there's some compromise. Maybe they could move the septic so to minimize the shield. I could get a rough opinion just from someone, if in my opinion, the soils are better in this area, so it'd be more where you'd put a septic, not a well. The well would probably usually a well goes close to the building. So, so it doesn't preclude us from putting a septic there, it precludes us from putting a well there.
You wouldn't want to ever put our septic for the school over there?
Yeah, you'd put the septic where this isolation is. It's not precluding septic, it's precluding well.
Our septic, if we were to have a septic system
Right.
for the historical society for that building, because right now you have a chemical toilet.
Right, go here. Right. Yeah, still able to go there. We just couldn't punch a well there.
All right,
So,
understood.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so that's that. It's 8:02, so I had some DRB reappointments. Hopefully I brought those with me. I did not.
Do we need to do that? Or can we wait until after the election, after town meeting? I always feel funny about making appointments before town meeting and then no offense, I don't know that anyone's running against you, but I just feel like it's kind of funny, like we're making appointments on the eve of an election of town officers and then, just like,
I would say that's true in most.
It just doesn't.
The only reason I bring this up, I would say it's true for all committees with the exception of the DRB. So their term ends March 1. So we're not going to reorganize till after town meeting. So in other words, if there's an ongoing development review board decision.
Yeah, but it's not the whole board.
No, but it's 4 members, right?
Yeah.
So that's a major chunk of the board.
And we know that they've signed a.
Yes. I know what you're going to say.
That's good. Actually, that's what
my question
the big three numbers are.
Yes, they have, and they're all, I just don't happen to have the paper in front of me, I'm sorry, but if somebody wants to make the motion to reappoint just the way Charlie has pointed it out, that would be great. Then we're not missing anything with the DRB. Because if somebody wanted to be difficult, they could say, well, that person's term's expired. They had no right to even weigh in on the decision of the.
Except for maybe a few. I move that we reappoint Karen McKnight, Mark Green, Penny Miller, and Mark Hamlin to the Underhill Development Review Board.
I think some are alternates and some are, can we just differentiate?
So I move that we appoint Karen McKnight and Mark Green for a 3-year term to the Underhill Development Review Board.
Yeah, let's do them 2 at a time.
Second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion.
And then I move that we appoint Penny Miller and Mark Hamlin for a 1-year term, alternates to the Underhill Development Review Board.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry that motion 3-0.
Thanks. And we'll wait for any other appointments till after. Dan's here. Thanks for staying. You want to come up? And so we need to pick the 25th of, according to statute, the 25th of February is the first day that we're allowed to have an informational hearing. So we have to have an informational hearing somewhere between the 25th and town meeting day. The 25th is a Saturday, 26th is Sunday. That leaves open the 27th, which is a Monday, the 28th, which is a Tuesday, Wednesday the 1st, Thursday the 2nd.
You have to, you can't have it before the 25th. That's what you just said, right? So it has to
Exactly.
be between the 25th
Yep.
and town meeting day, you have to have
Correct.
this meeting.
And I would not recommend having it the night before town meeting, because if something were to happen electronically here or something, and we say the power went out and it flopped, then we're not meeting our statutory obligation. So it'd be nice to have some buffer, just in case we had to reschedule the next day.
A mud date, perhaps.
Sure. I don't know. I'll leave it
I don't
up
want
to
to
you
say
guys.
snow, mud season.
Monday the 27th.
I'm here all the time. So.
You sleep
22nd?
7th.
7.
27th, yeah.
Yeah, that works for me.
Let me just check the town calendar. Hang on for 2 seconds.
And we would also be able to do this remotely, I assume.
Yeah, we could just do it in the
Like
same
we-
forum.
Yeah,
Yep.
in case somebody went to a warmer climate.
So there's something on here for the Lions Club.
The Lions Club?
Can we meet downstairs?
Yeah, we probably could.
We could turn on the heat at the schoolhouse and they could meet, the Lions Club could meet over at the schoolhouse and we could stay here.
Let me just text.
They're pretty.
If past hearings have been any guidance, we could meet in the closet. You probably have enough room.
Let me just ask Sheriff.
And what time would that event be?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Eastern time.
6 Eastern.
3 Pacific. Please, sir. I want to go somewhere warm.
Me too.
Or west, depending, I guess, right?
You have a wood stove?
Pellet. I have a wood stove, but we are burning pellets right now.
Just go in that room.
I know.
So I'm pretty sure they meet
Been through 3 times.
up here. I don't know. Has anybody ever been to a Lions Club?
I believe they do meet up here.
I would imagine.
A wild
Meet
bunch.
downstairs.
We could meet downstairs with the owl.
I bet we could work. I bet we could figure it out.
Let's do it, 27.
Okay. There's nobody else, doesn't look like, because the DRB, it would be a DRB night. That's the only problem. It's not on the calendar. Let me text. If we could just stall, maybe we could,
We'll meet in the kitchen.
we could.
Can we take the owl on the road?
We probably could.
Well,
Take it
we
to the
could go.
tree.
We could go over to the schoolhouse.
And take it to the tree.
We want to turn the heat on exactly, and I didn't realize that you have to turn the gas on. I did not realize that until after, doing a little hand rubbing and.
We're basically talking about, it's not next Monday. What's the date again? I don't have my
Monday the
calendar.
27th, February 27th.
TBD, to be determined on the exact location, because we could probably have it, at the school or some other
Public
You know.
setting. Yeah.
safe site.
While Brad's texting people too, just because I did go to moderator training the other day. Yeah. This public hearing, just for your reminder, is a select board hearing. It's really your meeting. You are more than welcome to invite me to moderate that meeting, and I'm happy to attend and do that. But procedurally, it's different than town meeting, which is the meeting
Well,
of
be
the town.
so invited.
Thank you. I'll look forward to being there with you, and happy to
Consider yourself welcome.
happy to handle that for you.
It's a nice tradition. It's got it.
Just looking at DRB agendas.
As long as he doesn't wear one
Do
of
not
those
see
Yankee
an
hats or
agenda
anything
for
crazy
that
like that,
date.
it'll be all set.
What is today, the 9th?
Today is the 9th,
He doesn't own anything like that anyway.
Thursday the 9th. And
Doesn't have to be yet. This won't work if there's a DRB meeting.
We'll find another place.
Okay.
The night and the time will work. It's just like this
Okay.
building won't work, but we
All right.
can find another building. I have no doubt.
Okay, let's do it. So the informational hearing is set for Monday, February 27th at 6 PM.
location TBD.
To be okay, so it's on to warrants and minutes, and Dan has the warrants. There's one transfer from reserves for the generator that you decided to do.
Do closing public.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Drive safe, especially
Thanks.
over bridge number 7.
And more importantly, down your driveway. Mine's ice skating.
Good night.
Okay,
Thank you.
we are ready for the closing public comment period. And I don't see anyone or hear anyone who
Quickie, DRB.
wishes to make a comment. So we will close the closing public comment period
Yes.
and go to warrants and minutes.
Okay, so we're gonna need the bill. Okay, yeah, talk to him. Yep. Okay, thanks.
So I move that we approve the accounts payable, the AP warrant for 1/1 to 1/31, 2023. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry this motion 3-0. And this was the one that we held back for clarification, correct? Do I remember that right?
No, that's the latest AP, or the payroll warrant?
No, this was a AP warrant for January. Maybe this is our first meeting in February, so maybe that's right.
It is, right, yeah.
Those are the accounts payable, okay.
Yep.
Those are the automatic ones that go out. And I move that we approve the AP warrant for 2/9/2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes carry this motion 3-0. And I move that we approve the payroll warrant for 2/2/2023. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 The ayes carry that motion 3-0. I move that we approve the select board meeting minutes.
There's one other thing there, Dan, the transfer, the reserve transfer.
Yeah. The reserve transfer, okay.
That was already decided on, so I don't know if you just want to mention it, or
Yeah, we already, yeah.
you could just sign that. So basically the reserve from the capital, or the reserve account for the town garage for the generator.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Just the
decided
transfer of
that.
the transfer of
Last
those
one.
monies.
Okay, so mentioned. I move that we approve the select board meeting minutes for Thursday, January 26th at 6 PM.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, corrections, observations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. I move that we approve the select board meeting minutes for Tuesday, January 17th. That would be the budget meeting. Is there a second?
Yep, second.
Discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is carried 3-0. Member items.
Did we receive anything back about being admitted into the Chittenden County Communication Union District?
Yes, as of yesterday, we were accepted into the district.
Sweet.
Mazel tov.
That's great.
Yeah, so we're off, and although things are so just barely starting, but it's good to be on the ground floor.
Good.
Yeah, should have. I was going to mention that. I'm glad you remembered.
I believe that my only final thing is that the Lions Club is going to be having a pancake thing, I believe next weekend
No?
at the United Church of Underhill. So if you're around on Saturday and like pancakes,
This Saturday?
nope, next Saturday.
The 18th.
Yep.
Okay.
I did include the Chittenden Solid Waste District annual report.
I see Paul's picture on there.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So the next scheduled meeting will be February 23rd, followed by Monday, the 27th, informational hearing for town meeting.
I did have one thing.
Yeah, I thought you did.
So going back to the Essex Rescue,
Yes.
we four out of the five towns signed the letter that was presented. Was it last meeting before? Anyway, the village or city of Essex Junction did not sign that. So Westford, Essex, Underhill, and Jericho signed on. And so now there is a interest in wanting to have a discussion and meet with Essex Rescue to go over that letter for a date to be determined. And I think Brad and I both received because we had participated in the letter, formation of the letter. So we received correspondence from Essex and Jericho and Westford to have this meeting. And I didn't respond because I wasn't clear that you wanted me to continue in that liaison and Brad in that liaison type capacity to sit down and continue discussions with Essex Rescue. I'm happy to do that, but I wanted to make sure that you wanted that to be the direction of the board. So
I fully support your sitting in on that.
I'd certainly do as well.
Thank you for your time.
So Brad and I will get together tomorrow, or if you're not busy,
Yeah, tomorrow.
or Monday, and we'll figure out dates that work in both our calendars and respond back to them to let them know, and we'll get together and meet.
That's good.
Yeah, let's do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Maybe what I'll let you do, Bob, is just reply to the doodle poll, and then I'll just tag along and follow suit with you. I'm here all the time.
Yep.
So, all right.
Okay.
We know where you live.
Yeah.
8:20 on the nose. Can you believe it?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:20.
Well done.
Well done. All right. Thank you all.